Good evening. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Weaverville Town Council on August 28th, 2023. Thank you all for being here. Council members, you all have had an opportunity to review tonight's agenda. Are there any adjustments we made to the agenda? And if not, can I hear a motion for approval of the agenda as written?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you. Just to remind folks, it is the duty of the mayor and each town council member to avoid both conflicts of interest and the appearances of such. Does any member have any known conflicts of interest or appearance of conflicts with any of the matters on tonight's agenda? Hearing none, good. Next, we'd like to have a presentation of a proclamation that we actually approved last month's meeting regarding recognizing September as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. And Amy Mensch, if you would come forward, and if the Vice Mayor, if you would present Amy with a proclamation.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to mention a couple things to folks. No parent should ever have to lose a child. And unfortunately and tragically, the Menches lost their young daughter, Kalina, a few years ago to a very cruel form of childhood cancer. And, a lot of parents would be forgiven if they when I was looking over this proclamation that we passed actually a month ago, I'm not going to read it, but there was one thing as I looked at it that really jumped out at me. The average age of diagnosis of cancer in the U.S. for an adult is 66 years old. So these people, you've hopefully had a good life behind you. For a child, it's 6. So they've hardly gotten started. So, instead, Amy and her family really looked at this as a call to action. And she got very involved in childhood cancer awareness and has done a whole lot the last couple years with the town's help. So I'd like to present formally this proclamation on Weaverville's behalf. Thank you very much. I'd like Amy to give folks an idea of what she's been up to, because it's pretty special.
Well, first I want to thank you, Mayor, for signing this again.
Sure.
And thank you, Selena, for editing it, because the problem is this paper really is worthless. But it shows a lot of facts and figures, and as Selena knows, she updated them, and they're actually less promising because childhood cancer diagnoses are increasing. And other families like ours, we don't get a choice. Brooklyn's family here in town didn't get a choice. Logan's family didn't get a choice. And the fact is you guys did have a choice. And sitting back there are all these people that did choose to show up. And sitting over here are people that have chosen to do something, not just write a worthless piece of paper. And that action is not being unnoticed. There have been several families that have reached out that are either in treatment, have survivors that are struggling with the diagnosis. Now, even though they're out past treatment because of the way that side effects are, because it's such a harsh thing, and even a few families that have lost their children like us to this disease. We like to say they were stolen because it feels much more like that than we know where they are. But they see it and they appreciate it. So it's really working, and I know how much they're struggling, and you don't always see and notice what a cancer family looks like, but they're out there, and they're seeing the support and appreciate your continued efforts, and it'd be great just to continue to forge ahead. And I'd really like to thank the Weaverville Police Department for starting the action here in town, and the Weaverville Fire Department for stepping up this year, and also helping co-host the fundraiser at Art and Autumn, so everybody should come out if you can and help support that. You guys are all the heroes everybody in this town that's stepping up, and the businesses that are doing things and showing these families they care, and this isn't gonna keep happening to people like us, and that we're gonna do something for our kids, because it's time. So thank you, and if you check out the paper this week, it'll show you how to get in contact with me, and also to keep abreast of what's happening all next month, and to show your gold, hang a gold ribbon, wear gold like these folks, there's a few more ribbons, so thank you all so much.
And thank you for your good work in town, Amy. The next item is item 5, our consent agenda, and Town Manager Coffey, would you go through the item in tonight's consent agenda?
Yes, sir, and good evening to all of you. Consent agenda, page 3, you have the July 18th workshop minutes. On page 6, you have the July 24th regular town council meeting minutes. On page 10, you have the first of 3 budget amendments. This one is for ABC store distributions, and go to the police department for alcohol education and prevention, as well as ABC enforcement. The next one begins on page 12. This is a reappropriation budget amendment that you see every year at this time of year. When we begin a new year, we always reappropriate funds that were not able to be spent, or were in the middle of spending on them, or whatever the case may be. And so that one is that's why that's fairly large. I will mention that a huge majority of that is for our street improvement program. We've been rolling those funds over, but I'll speak to the bidding process in a minute on that. The next budget amendment is on page 16. This is a transfer. This is for transferring the $12,872.22 for the recreation complex at the community center at Lake Louise Park. Was transferred. This is to transfer it to the capital project fund. On page 18, you have road closure ordinance, and this covers the North Buncombe Homecoming Parade for September 29th of 2023, as well as a holiday parade for December 2nd of 2023. Then on page 20, beginning on page 25, you have quite a few motions for or suggested motions for board reappointments or appointments. The first of which is Jane Kelly and Donna Manbelt to be reappointed as regular members of the planning board to serve a new 3-year terms beginning September of this year. Stephanie Bush appointed as a regular member of the planning board to serve an unexpired term that is due to expire in September of 2025. Michelle Rapon, appointment as an alternate member of the planning board to serve an unexpired term that is due to expire in September 2025. Then moving into Board of Adjustment, you have a recommendation for Tyser Lewis and Roger Parkin to be reappointed as regular members of the Board of Adjustment to serve new 3-year terms beginning in September of 2023. Larry Murray, reappointment as an alternate Board of Adjustment member to serve a new 3-year term beginning September 2023. And then finally, Rob Chasen, appointment to the ABC Board to serve a new 3-year term beginning in September 2023, and designation as the ABC Board Chairman for 1-year term beginning this September 2023. The final item on your consent agenda is a water commitment renewal, and this is for the Chapel Crossing development. This is a line extension that was we committed to in July of 2022. They have requested a 1-year extension, which is per your general rules. That is all of the consent agenda, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments regarding the consent agenda?
I've got a couple there as it relates to the appointments. I brought this up previously, nothing against Rob Chasen, but I think having somebody on a board for 15 years is not wise. There's not, you can get in a rut, and if you look at other boards, I think turnover is good in that regard, so this is my opinion, nobody asked me, so I think it's a mistake for somebody to serve on the board for 15 years. Second is.
If I could just address that.
Yeah,
Manny.
yes, sir.
I totally agree with you, and actually, I want to point out that I actually had a conversation with Rob, that this should be his last year as a chairman. He's done an outstanding job in this.
Agreed.
But turnover and adding new faces to this board, which this board has had very little turnover, quite frankly, is a good thing. So we encourage anyone who'd like to be on the ABC board to make an application to be so.
The second is, I was the original non-voting town liaison for planning board. Howard asked me to do it. And I'm not sure we need one. I don't know that we should have had one. It was Al's opinion, and I always worried about that role. We tried, Catherine sat on, now Michelle has sat on it. So I'm not sure that role was ever needed. We can all go to the planning board meetings or public meetings if we want to hear it, because we don't get, I don't know that I did it. I didn't write a summary and send it to the council. I don't know that Catherine did it. I don't know if Michelle's doing it, so I don't know what that role is. But it's a public meeting, so if I want to know what's going on, I can go to it or Zoom in. So I think that role should be eliminated.
Good point, thank you, sir. Any other comments or questions? If not, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda for this evening?
So moved.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Manager Coffey, would you give the town manager's report?
Yes, sir. Very briefly, want to recognize, she's not with us and don't see her online, but recognize our new recreation coordinator and community center manager, Sarah Myers. She comes to us from the WBA. Did a fantastic job for the WBA, and I think will do even more of a fantastic job with the town and following in Shelby's footsteps. So we do want to welcome Sarah. The Weaverville 9/11 observance is on September 11th, Monday, September 11th at 9 a.m. and it will be at the community center.
11?
At
Did you
11.
say 9?
Did I say 9? Apologies, 11. I have written down 11, but I guess I said 9. So September 11th at 11 for our 9/11 observance at the community center.
Should be at 9/11.
I'm already
I
confused.
moved to change it to 9.
I like that.
You good with that, Doug?
Yeah.
9/11.
That would work.
Anyway, moving right along. Code Red implementation, we are continuing to be trained on this. I expect that we will have the Code Red public enrollment by the end of this month or early September. And again, for those of you who haven't been here, this is a public enrollment to receive text notifications, email notification, voice calls, whatever the case may be, to receive information about emergencies or upcoming events, or however we go about choosing to use that. But we have been having weekly trainings on this now, so anticipate we're at a place really close to begin going ahead and pushing out to the public for enrollment. I will go ahead and say at this point in time, we will have our initial data is the national emergency call data. So there, we will have already a base foundation of emergency numbers that are nationwide public information for this specific purpose that will start us off. So it may be that folks don't need to come and enroll a second time unless they want to add let's say an email. You can add multiple methods for notification. So this is going to be a pretty good tool for us to to be able to use, obviously with emergency events, but also other community type events. We could push
Do we have any
that.
idea what percentage of of citizens that represents?
I don't know at this point.
But presumably that's probably a good chunk anyway.
Yes, yeah. Strategic planning retreat, I've been trying to encourage you to set a date for a strategic planning retreat. This strategic plan really, and our old one has expired. A strategic plan really helps the town's leadership team to understand where town council wishes to go, where your priorities are, what you want us to be focused on. It definitely helps us when we're budgeting, because we are able to better determine where we need to put the funds. So what I would like to do is ask you all to give me, send me a separate email or whatever, however you wish to do it, to give me dates when you would not be available in January. So for instance, if you're going on a long vacation, a couple of weeks, or you'll be gone a week or whatever, it would be good for me to know that, and that way I can get with the mayor and we can try to schedule, tentatively schedule something. Recreation complex update. If you've been by, things are happening. We're almost at the place where grading has it been scheduled yet, Dale? Friday. Okay, so begin Friday. So we are moving right along with the recreation complex. Street improvements programs bid, as I mentioned earlier when I was speaking about the budget amendment, we were not able to open bids. We did receive 2 bids at the last bid opening, which was last week. We have to receive 3 by law. So we were not able to open the bids, but not to worry. We're going to have another bid opening, and we expect to have bidder approval at your next meeting to begin that process.
What if we don't get a third one?
We don't have to on the second reading.
Right, good deal.
And electrifying public safety training and ride and drive. We are participating with Land of Sky, Clean Vehicles Coalition on an educational event, which will be held on September 25th. I don't have the exact time yet, but I believe it's 9:30 to 11:30. I didn't note that here because I'm not sure for sure about the time yet. But at this point, at this event, we will be showcasing the towns, and especially the police department and Chief Davis's efforts at switching all of our vehicles from traditional fueled vehicles to either hybrids or, now is the case, we have 2 complete EV vehicles, and so we will be participating in that, and we're asked to participate because we're one of the very few jurisdictions in, I would say, the western half of the state that is moving with such great progress towards EVs and hybrids.
Actually, I've been told by the governor's office, we're the first municipality in the state to have an all police force, it's all electric or hybrid, so we're on the vanguard. I take they knew what they're talking about. That's why I'm repeating.
We're headed in that direction. We have not completely replaced all of them yet, but we're headed in that direction. This last budget takes us there. And then finally, and this is not in front of you, but I want to give you an update on the active Weaverville Steering Committee. Unfortunately, I have not heard from many of the folks that served on the Development Steering Committee who want to continue. And it's a variety of issues, from too busy, not enough time to commit to meetings, that type of thing. At this point in time, I have Jeff McKenna, Rachel Bronson, Chief Davis, Public Works Director Dale Pennell, and then as of just last week, I heard from Andrew Gerard, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that name correctly, but who's a citizen and is interested and wants to participate. And so, if there are folks that you know and can reach out to and have them get in touch with us, we'd like to go ahead and begin having meetings and start the process of going through the active Weaverville bike ped plan at some point in the near future. That's all for my manager's report, sir.
Thank you. Any questions of the town manager regarding her report? Good done, thank you. Next item is item 7, general public comments, and we've got one person signed up tonight, Joanna Vanderkolk.
Well, I love my little neighborhood. I just love it. And the thing that I'm concerned about, as are some of my neighbors, is that there is a situation on College Street where somebody, I'm told, I haven't gotten it exactly right. I mean, right from any legal document or whatever, but there is a young lady there that is boarding dogs and training dogs. How many of those are her own dogs? I don't know. But consistently, it's not all the time. It's not 24 hours a day. It's not that, but oftentimes, almost every day, for an hour, for 2 hours, I see several people shaking their heads, or even longer. There is continual yelping. And my husband, who is very diplomatic, but he's very diplomatic, he's a psychologist, he ought to be. Anyway, he went over and talked with her last year when there was a particularly vicious sounding dog there that was always at the fence making a lot of noise. And he went over and talked to her, and she seemed pretty nice about it, and it kind of helped for a while.
Ma'am, can I ask that you speak into the microphone, please?
But now it's bad. I understand there are quite a few puppies, and I'm just wondering, is there any ordinance? Is there anything that can be done? Because it's not just us, and we love dogs. A lot of our neighbors have dogs. Once in a while they bark, so what? We're used to that, but we're not used to 2 and 3 hours of continual multiple dogs barking. So I would just ask y'all to kind of clarify if anything can be done about such a situation.
We can certainly check and see if she's operating a business in an area that is permitted. So as a town manager, she would follow up on that and see what's going on.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is our discussion and action items, and the first item up is the tax assessor presentation from Keith Miller, who's the Buckingham County tax assessor. Keith?
Evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. Thank you for the invitation. I have a little time to speak with you this evening about property assessment and, more importantly, reappraisal of 2025, which is coming up on us very soon. So I'd like to start first, though, just a little bit of highlights on property assessment and what we do. Because many of our residents in Buncombe County, here in the town of Weaverville, don't always know everything that we do. So responsibility for listing and assessment of all real and personal property. So what the statute says is that it's the responsibility of the assessor to list, which means that you report to the assessor all real and personal property which you own. All real and personal property is taxable in the state of North Carolina. We manage land records, ownership, situs, your property boundaries. If you transfer a deed, we transfer that to the owners. So that's a little bit about ownership situs. Taxable property is personal property, licensed motor vehicles, business personal property, and real property. All taxable property must be listed and reported to the assessor yearly, and that is personal property is assessed yearly. All taxable real property is assessed on January 1 of the reappraisal year, which typically is every 4 years and currently will be on a 4-year cycle. We administer special programs for the North Carolina General Statute, exemptions, present use programs. So we have exemptions such as churches or elderly, veterans. These are all the programs which our staff also administers for us. We revalue every 4 years about 130,000 parcels. So a few facts for you on Weaverville. 2,680 parcels of real estate, 287 businesses, 51 personal property accounts, and 4,678 motor vehicles. Taxable value for FY24 for Weaverville, approximately $1.1 billion in real property value, $480,000 in personal property, $6.9 million in public service, $60 million in motor vehicles, $1.25 billion total taxable value. So the $1.25 billion is an approximate number, and every year your town manager receives from me an estimate of what the taxable value would be for that year. I'm sure we've discussed that here with her and know a little bit about what that means. Just to put it in perspective, I'll go back. Total for Buncombe County, our office again, 130,000 parcels of real estate, and total for Buncombe County is $51 billion in taxable value. So let's talk about reappraisal 2025. It's a process where we revalue all land and buildings in the county to its current market value. The North Carolina General Statute 105-286 specifically requires county to reappraise all property at least every 8 years. The statute also authorizes the county to reappraise more frequently than every 8 years. We have been on a 4-year cycle rather than an 8-year cycle for many, many years. My career there, we've only missed one time that we were not on a 4-year cycle. It's important, 4-year cycles in a market like we are in. Very fast appreciation in property values. If we didn't do it at least every 4 years, then you would find that people would be paying taxes on a very low value versus what the actual taxable market value should be. So in order to keep the values in line with current market, Buncombe County attempts to reappraise all property on a 4-year schedule. The previous reappraisal occurred in 2021. The next reappraisal effective January 1, 2025. Real property, again, considered land, building, structures, and improvements. 105-283 of the North Carolina General Statute requires real property to be valued at its true value in money, meaning market value. Properties are appraised at 100%. Reappraisal is completed by using mass appraisal methodology. That's an important one, and we're going to talk about it a little bit more. So, mass appraisal. Mass appraisal employs the same appraisal methods as any real property appraisal we use. Those are the sales comparison method, cost approach, and the income approach. These same approaches, you hire an independent appraisal to give you appraisal on your home or even a commercial property, they would use any one of these approaches to do the same thing in which you do. So what's the difference in mass appraisal and single property appraisal? All counties across the United States use mass appraisal. It's the only way that we can accomplish such a huge job. If you consider 130,000 parcels that we have to revalue at one day in time, and we have 10 appraisers that do that, it would be financially and logistically impossible for us to be able to value each one individually. So a fee appraiser or an independent appraiser that comes maybe to your home and values just your home, they're looking at just your house, okay? We look at groups of properties. So those groups will vary based upon where you're at in the county. We look at homogeneous neighborhoods, well-defined subdivisions, and those what create market areas within the county. And that's what we use in the mass appraisal process as far as groups of properties. Buncombe County property assessment, again, why do we not do single property appraisers? So a little bit of more detail for you there. Is that 130,000 parcels? We did 130 single property appraisals in 12 months. It would take over 270 employees to be able to accomplish that. What's next? We're listening to the community and sharing information. Our team is out and about. We'd like other people to invite us to their neighborhood meetings. We've been to community centers, festivals, lunch and learns, community markets, field clinics, and property owner. We provide a property owner toolkit to the residents now. We've embarked upon a very robust community engagement plan over the next 2 years. Because what we find is that a lot of our residents really do not understand what we do, why we do it, how we do it, and really how it affects them, and why you should be paying attention to what's coming up for 2025. What does that mean to you as a property owner and an individual owner? So we would love to be able to be out in the community more, giving some educational opportunities, talking to our residents, to help those people better understand what it is we do every day. We value Buncombe. You'll see us here in the slide. We were recently at the Juneteenth Festival in downtown Asheville, Ola Festival this weekend, the Neighborhood Festival off Martin Luther King. We were at talking to residents about reappraisal, about taxes in general, about exemptions, whatever they would like to talk about, whatever they need more information on. We want to be available to do that. So again, embarking on our community engagement and education. See here, we've spotlighted on Carolina Morning, on WLOS. We've been to community markets, there are downtown festivals, and we were recently, well, I'll say recently, back in the winter, we were here at the Weaverville Library doing an appeal clinic for the residents of Weaverville. So if you had a question about your property value, or you wanted to appeal, or you need us to help you understand why the value of your property is what it is, or why your taxes are what they are, or you want to apply for an exemption, we made ourselves available to the residents of Weaverville to be able to do that here at the library. And we will continue that. We'll be back in Weaverville, and we will be here as often as someone will invite us, or others back to the library for having an appeal clinic there. So I want to touch on the property tax equation. A lot of people, when they talk to me, they'll say, well, Pete, why'd you go up on my taxes? Well, I didn't go up on your taxes first, okay? I do property values, all right? Tax rate comes from the county, the municipalities, and the fire district. I do value. Those county, municipalities, and fire district sets the tax rate, which is what determines your tax amount, not necessarily me. I have a part in the equation, so Miss Coffey and I will we get together on that and actually figure out what that tax bill will be into some respect. So property assessments are an estimated property value only. The governing boards and the taxing districts determine the tax rate during the budget process. We've embarked upon a campaign to improve the assessment data quality. I hope that if you are a property owner in Buncombe County, that you recently received a postcard from me. We direct mailed approximately 80,000 postcards to the owners of Buncombe County asking for your help. One thing that we know that makes a reappraisal the best that it can be is to have correct data. If we have correct data on your property, then we will produce a very correct value for the field. However, over time, value data becomes somewhat outdated because a lot of people add things onto their homes and maybe don't get a permit for them, or maybe they're doing renovations on the interior, or maybe they finished a basement. These are things sometimes that we don't know. So we need help from the property owners to be able to help us that. 99.9% of the homes in this county, we will never be inside. We do not go inside your homes. We will only go inside your home if you invite us. Typically in an appeal situation, if there's something you want us to see, we would come to your home and go inside. Otherwise, I don't know if you renovated your kitchen, your bathroom, or you finished your basement. I have no way of knowing that unless you report that to us. Another thing for data quality, aerial and oblique photography. We recently flew 660 miles, not We recently contracted with a company to fly the 660 square miles of Buckingham County. We captured a bird's eye view of your property, an oblique view, and a building footprint of all 130,000 parcels. So the oblique view, which is the one on the far right, gives us sort of a 45-degree angle. Look at your house from the air. You can see the front and sides and the back. And then the middle one is our bird's eye view. And then the one on the left would be the footprint, and which we'll talk a little bit more in the next slide. We use that flyover in a technology called Sketch Inspect. You will look at the two photos on the left-hand side. The one on the far right, you will see has a two-car garage. The one in the center has two-car garages. So we would have never known this if the property owner did not report it to us. But when we do the flyover of all the properties in the county, Sketch Inspect tells us where we missed that. So if you build a garage onto your house and you never reported it to us, we will find it. Sketch Inspect will find it and report it to us as that something is not correct. So another way of improving data quality. Street photography. Residents of Weaverville will see come November and December of 23. We will drive approximately 1,878 miles within the county and all the municipalities, capturing 360-degree views of the properties from the street level. These we also use in our office for desktop reviews, looking for quality, looking for condition issues. We also use them to discuss with property owners during the appeal process. The new software that we have for 2025 also improve our data quality is an automated valuation process. This process automatically supports analyzing data, providing feedback, a daily reevaluation of approximately 90,000 parcels, predicts value for the current date and the future. Every night, 90,000 homes in this county gets revalued by this system. And that uses every night the sales transactions from the day before gets applied to the values that night, and it produces a new value for the next day. So these are tools that we will use for the auditing process. We can also use the system for predicting change and looking for change in different market areas within the county. So an example for you of how this works. We had this home, and this picture was assessed in 2021 for $426,000. Sold in 2021 for $470,000. This automated value estimate alone valued the home currently for 2023 at $612,000, and it estimated a value for 2025 at $656,000. The next technology change, the property owner toolkit. If you now go to our website, tax.buncombecounty.org, any owner in the county and type in your address, your name, your parcel number, whatever you might have, and it'll pull up your property as you see here in the photos. You'll be able to look at your property record card, which gives you all the data. You'll be able to see a map. You'll be able to see a photo of your house. If you go to some of the other tools, which you see in the bar, you have a tool called Community. If you want to know what's going on in the community you live in, then you can zoom in to a street or a subdivision, and this software will tell you what the sales were in the area, median sales price, what the change has been over time, what the sales ratio is. It will tell you building permits that are going on in the area. So it will give you a lot of information specifically about the area in which you live. Comper, which you also see there on the bar. You want to get an estimate of what your house is worth, you can go to Comper. Just type in location. It'll give you 3 comparable properties for your home and give you an estimated value of what the system thinks its value should be valued at today. You can appeal if you would like from that bar, and you can also pay your tax bill from that same bar. Also, to make it even easier, we now have an app called My Value BC. Download this app on your smartphone, and you can do all the same things that you can do at tax.buncombecounty.org. So if you got your smartphone and you're running down the street and you want to see what your neighbor's house is valued at, type in their address, it'll pull it up for you, you can see it, okay? Also, on that smart device, you can file an appeal, you can submit corrections to your property data. So if you look at your property record card and you say, hey, they have me at 1,000 square feet, should be 900, You can go in there and submit that to us. It'll come to us electronically to review that, and then someone will be back in contact with you. So reappraisal myths. Reappraisal is not a method to increase tax revenue. Most people believe this, but our legislators, when we created the Machinery Act, which is the property tax laws in the state of North Carolina, we really saw, I believe, mass appraisal or reappraisal as more of an equity issue, because over time values change differently in different areas of the county in which you live. But if you don't do a reappraisal, what happens is that the tax burden starts shifting to different people. So reappraisal equalizes that. It gives the tax burden equal across all the property owners. It is not, as much as people ask me and say it to me, it is not a tool that we use for tax revenue, because we do not set the tax rate. We determine value. When the assessor states average increase of 20%, does that mean all taxes will increase 20%? So come 2025, what you're going to hear is that the media is going to come to me and they're going to say, Keith, what's the median change for value all across the county? And if I say that's going to be 20%, what immediately happens is people say, well, my tax bill is going to go up 20%. That is not necessarily true, because as values increase, the tax rate adjusts. And a lot of times people's tax bills can be even lower than what they were as they adjust. So that is not true. And I talk about it because a lot of people get a little frightened about that when they hear that number come out, and they think, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? My tax bill is going to go up 20%, and I can't afford to pay it as it is. So that's not always true. The appeal process can be controversial. Not true. The appeal process is there for property owners to ask us to review their property. Come to us, tell us what it is you think the problem is. What do you think the value is? Do we have it wrong? Is the house sketched wrong? Is the square footage wrong? What could be wrong? But through the appeal process, which is given to you as a property owner through the statutes of the state of North Carolina, you have that right to do that, then do it. That's what I tell people, is that if you are concerned about it, file an appeal, let our appraisers work through it with you. Because at that point, they will work with you one-on-one. You come out of that mass appraisal sort of for a few moments, and where in the appeal process, they're only focused on you, your property, not everybody else's. So in the appeal process, the taxpayers may appeal the situs, physical location, taxability within 30 days of the date of the initial notice. So the first step, file the appeal. Easy to do, online process. Use the app on your phone to do it. You can go online at tax.buncombecounty.org. You can do it there. You start the appeal, it's just going to ask you a few questions. You hit submit. It comes directly to the appraiser that's assigned to your parcel, and they will be back in contact with you to answer your questions and help you work through it. To help with the appeals in the website, we included the sales, the values, the characteristics of your property, the community values, values and sales. We've also, last appeal period, even when we were here in Weaverville, we partnered with the Land of the Skies Realtor Associations and Pisco Legal to put on these clinics all across the county. So we were north, south, east, and west, all over the county, making this available to our property owners to be able to have these conversations with us. Land of the Sky Realtors Association offered volunteers through their association that came and talked to property owners. They were not tax appraisers that were talking. These were independent realtors who were sitting talking about values and giving some estimates on value based upon their knowledge and experience in that field. Fiscal Legal was also available for if you wanted to file an exemption, or you need help file an exemption, or maybe you got denied and you need some legal representation, then they were also available to the property owner to be able to assist with that. So reappraisal 2025 schedule. Here's a little bit of what you can expect. April of 23 to December of 24. We will be doing on-site visits. We'll do the street level and aerial photography. We'll do the property record card updates. And we will continue with our community engagement program. January 1 of 2025 will be the effective date of the reappraisal. Notice of the assessed value will be mailed to all property owners around the end of January to 1st of February of 2025. And then January through April 2025 is the appeal period for all people who receive a value change. April of 2025, the Board of Equalization Review will convene and adjourn. June 30th, 2025, FY26 tax rates established by the Board of Commissioners and the municipalities. And then August 2025, you will receive your bill based upon the value for 2025. That's a lot. And I would love to hear your questions.
Thank you. What questions or comments do members have for Mr. Miller?
I have a question. You mentioned at the beginning of your presentation regarding the age of houses and so forth. Here in Weaverville, the downtown area, we have a lot of older homes. And it appears from some of the things I've seen that a lot of emphasis is given on square footage, but our property values have, if you go by what is sold in town, it has increased significantly here because, I hate to say it, we're such a desirable location that people are willing to pay enormous prices, which I find somewhat difficult to understand sometimes, but can you elaborate a little bit regarding the age of the property or whatever?
Yes, so you do have some uniqueness here in Weaverville because you do have an area that's mixed with a lot of new homes and older.
Yeah.
But if you have a home that was built in 1950 here in downtown Weaverville, what we're going to look for is comparable properties to that age, okay? We're not going to go down the street and say, oh, here was a house built in 2023, it sold for $1 million. Let's compare it back to this older house that was built in 1950. We will not do that, okay? Because there's tremendous difference in depreciation, age, difference in maybe quality, difference in building styles. There's a lot of difference in those two homes. So what we are working on today is that we have contracted with a company called Splice Valuation. We are working with Splice Valuation to currently redelineate all the market areas, including downtown Weaverville. And what that means to you is that market areas would be homes that would be clustered in the same year built range. So if you have a house that was built in 1950, then all the homes that was built maybe between 1920 to 1970 may be put into a cluster of market area within themselves and will only be compared to themselves. So whatever sales transactions within that cluster is what will drive the value of your home.
Well, the reason I asked the question, a few years ago, I called regarding the age of home and someone says, the tax office said, well, the Biltmore house is so old and look at the property value on it. And I was just blown off by that.
Oh, so let me go a little further then. The valuation model starts with cost approach. Okay, and the cost approach takes into consideration depreciation based upon the age of the house. But what often happens in the market area and the markets is that depreciation then gets offset by appreciation. So your house maybe from the cost approach from 50 years ago may show it depreciated 50%, but the market may show that it appreciated 60%. So you got to figure out how much age really affects the value in today's market.
But none, you're doing a comp.
I'm sorry?
It's market driven.
Yeah.
It
that's what I'm
doesn't
saying.
matter how old the house is.
If you,
It's irrelevant. The house could be 1,000 years old, and if 1,000-year-old houses in Weaverville sell for $10 million, that's what it's gonna be appraised.
You're correct. And that's market conditions and appreciation versus depreciation. So what the gentleman's saying, when we cluster those homes based upon age, we do eliminate any factors that a new home may have on that. But what you might find is that the dollar per square foot won't be significantly different. It's because people pay the price to live in the area. So.
Yeah, I got some questions, but,
Right ahead.
you know, how many appeals, you know, I couldn't remember the number of total appraisals you do, but do you have, or a percent of the number of people that actually appeal?
I can't give you a percent, but I can tell you for last year, we had about 500 appeals. For the last reappraisal year, we had about 8,000.
8,000 out, and how many total?
130,000 parcels.
You answered a couple questions I had written down. It was interesting on the aerial photos, right? And I had a conversation with a resident in town. They're like, how did they know I did that? Well, they're taking photos. And then you answered obvious question, state law is 8 years. Buncombe County commissioners or whoever the powers that be decide to do it faster. Right, to 4. And how fast can they do it? What does the state law allow? Could they, if the county commissioners chose, so could they do it every year?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Right, and I know that's not that's not up to you.
But let's also say what a task that would be.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not saying they're going to.
But yes, there is no limit. The statute just says that the commissioners can advance it to
Yep.
what they feel appropriate.
Yep.
Okay?
So I like the word you used earlier, about median. So I like median over averages. So we had this conversation last time because Weaverville was, so, and I couldn't remember if it was median or average, that it went up 20%. Well, that means some people went down, some went up, right? So
Right.
Patrick's went up more than mine, and I think this council's done a good job of, last couple times of trying to watch that. So it's up to us, I point at Slim, but it's really up to us to sit there and go, are we gonna raise your taxes? So if your property went up 20%, what are we doing from the tax base? So, that was interesting that I like that you used the word, median, versus average. Last question, and I'll have to disclose it's personal. Thanks to this council, I have a 5-acre Duke substation being next door, being built to my property. Is that gonna increase my value? Because I get a substation next door? Or is that gonna decrease my value, or is it not effective?
Well, we have often done market studies based upon that, okay? And buyers is typically what area that they're buying that in and really how close it is and how small the lot is that they're buying close to it. There is some effect and there can be no effect,
Right.
okay? It's all the situation.
Right. and-
Each one is so different.
So that's gonna be interesting, because we don't have a substation that big in town. The smallest substation is actually in a commercial, there's no residents next to it. So this will be the first substation in Weaverville, and I don't know if it'll be finished, depending when you guys start it. So, yeah. I mean, Duke will tell you it has no effect. In fact, I think they try to tell us it's gonna actually increase the property value.
Well, the good thing is that you will get more public service value from them. So they will pay you more in taxes. So we'll look at the positive.
Thank you for
Yes, sir.
your presentation.
Yes, sir. Anyone else?
I think I have one small question. Some people tend to believe that if you have an Airbnb on your street, it'll devalue your home. Based on all these calculations, it wouldn't matter who lives there, whether it's an Airbnb or not, right?
Let me say that over the past couple of years, we have tried to do a market study on that. But the difficult is I cannot identify where the Airbnbs are at. Okay? So it's very difficult for me to completely answer your question. Each area that have Airbnbs are different. If you just have an Airbnb down your street and you got nice couples coming in, once a week, no parties, not a lot of children, going up and down the street raising all kinds of noise. Maybe not. But if you live in an area where you're surrounded by 5 maybe that right next to your house, I don't know, maybe a typical buyer would say, that's not where I want to live, and it does affect your value. But I can't completely answer your question because the data is not there for one to answer it. And I'll say this, you might say why, and I'll share that with you. A recent court case out of New Hanover County says the county cannot force you to get a permit for that Airbnb, and therefore the county cannot keep a list of where those are at. That would be now lawful to do. Even if we looked at purchasing data from Airbnb, the company Airbnb, and the companies won't give you exact locations. They give you general locations, so I can't tell exactly where the house is at. It is an ongoing question, and we are still working on it, so I will continue to, and maybe if you invite me back again in a year or so, I'll have a different answer for you. But that's the best answer I can give you today.
Thank you.
Can I ask one more question? I've actually turned my mic on. Sorry if you couldn't hear me earlier. Curious now about zoning. And again, if it's just comps and market driven, but because we constantly, one of the things councils, and you're aware of this, do is we change zoning regularly. So, you know, if your neighbors, you know, if it was zoned in a favorable and then all of a sudden we do something, you're not really looking at zoning again, or are you?
Yes.
Okay.
Zoning is one of the legal changes to property value that we can make a change in value. There's only a few reasons that is one of them. So if you change a residential property to commercial, and therefore it changes the value, then the statute says I have the authority to do that.
Okay.
If the people around it want to appeal based upon that new use because they feel it affects their value, then I will also.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, so how do you get that data? How do you know that's occurred to make the
The
change?
zoning?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
do we have a feed to you when we change our zoning plans?
we collect that hopefully from you. All the municipalities should be sending it to us. So,
Okay, so that's why, it sounds like it's kind of
yeah.
dependent here.
he's shaking his head, yes. James is saying, James is going, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
We do that.
all right.
Yeah, so as long as we get that from you, I'm not watching your meetings every night to figure out which ones you're changing. You need to make sure that there is a paper coming to us, to let us know if there's change.
So in the last reassessment, which was almost 3 years ago now, Weaverville was, if not the highest, one of the highest districts in terms of increase in tax value. I think, if I remember correctly, it was like 32% was the average residential increase. We remain very popular. I would not be surprised if we see a similar kind of experience this time as well. What seemed incongruent, though, was we also had some large retail businesses in town who actually experienced a decrease, and sometimes a sizable decrease. That seems incongruent, especially when, for a challenge for us is that these businesses actually consume a disproportionate amount of town services, but yet they're paying less and less in taxes. How does that occur, and how could we count that not happening again?
Two totally separate issues, okay? Residential and commercial, two total different valuation methodologies. So when we value a commercial shopping center here in Weaverville, we are looking at what the income is from that center, okay? And then we're looking at what will investor pay for that income. Those change, okay, based upon interest rates, based upon the stock market, based upon bonds. There's a lot of things that affect what investors would do. So if that changes in there somewhere for whatever reason, then the value of that commercial property could come down. Although you feel like that it should go up because everything else is going up, it's a total different situation. So you need to analyze that a little differently to say, okay, if I'm a commercial buyer, will I pay X dollars for this income, or will I put my money somewhere else? Well, if it's more prudent for you to put your money somewhere else, then what happens is the commercial property value starts coming down in value because the investors don't want to put their money there right now. They're putting it somewhere else. It can happen. Land value on those commercial properties will tend to at least be level and sometimes increase in value, but the overall building and land value is determined by the income approach. So you can say, well, it costs $100 million to build that shopping center, and you only have it valued at $600 million or $60 million or whatever it might be. But it's all because of the income. What is the rental rate at this time? What is the vacancy? What is the capitalization rate that investors are using against that income to arrive at those values? So it's a complex situation. I know most residents can't say, well, I understand that. And probably just from the description I just gave, they are more confused now than they were. But it is a complex question to be able to answer in some kind of simplistic form.
Can I make it a little more complex?
Please do.
Since your question prompted another question in my brain again.
Okay.
So you also look at real property inside of the building, right? Equipment, like, right, equipment.
Yes.
Yeah, so Sauna Press was in town pumping out CDs, a lot of high expensive German equipment, and now it's an empty shell.
Yep.
We're not getting the tax revenue on that. What do you do? Does Walmart pay, they don't pay on their inventory, right?
No.
Right, so somebody like Walmart doesn't have, you're looking at their sales hours, they don't have a lot of equipment in there, where Sauna Press did.
Correct.
And so, you know, whatever, almost nothing, some cash registers.
Yep.
And a forklift.
Yeah, I agree that Weaverville took a hit when Sauna Press left because
Yeah.
all that expensive equipment left, okay, and that value.
Right, and I think Joe from Strong Towns pointed that, I'm not blaming the people who voted Walmart and said, let's get Walmart, but they're not to your point, Patrick, I think we knew, they draw more than almost, their services, because there's not a great tax base there.
It's not, but they consume a huge amount of services. And I would say that, as you start to do your calculations, there are no vacancies in Weaverville. So please keep that in mind. And all those businesses out there, including Walmart, are having record-breaking years, so.
Well, and let me say something there is that Walmart may be having a record-breaking year, okay? But Walmart may not own that building. Walmart owns the business. The business has nothing to do with property value. Walmart can be selling billions of dollars out of a Weaverville store, but it's not going to affect the value of their store, their building. They still have a lease on it. They're still paying that same amount on that lease, and that's all it will be worth to them, based upon what the lease is.
Look, there's a couple of large new retailers out there who have just built, who I think would build to show you that the tax value, the values of those properties out there are
So
increasing.
keep something in mind when you're thinking about that too. Is that you think about the value today that's on that property. Remember, the assessment on that property today was generated from comparables that we used from 18 and 19, or 19 and 20.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So a comparable from 20, still now you're looking at the same value for 23 going into 24. And that's a big gap. Okay? So, take that in consideration that the commercial market and the residential market both very different back in 20.
So you're saying, so now, so in this assessment, the base value you'll be using for those retail properties is not going to be from 1819, it's going to be from 2021.
24, and then we may use some back to 23 if we need to. But the majority of the data should come from year 24 to arrive at a value for January 1 of 25. So all these new transactions that's going on, all these new shopping centers that have leases on them now,
Good, that makes good sense.
should be a lot different.
That makes good sense. I know recently there was research done that showed that in Buncombe County and other counties as well, that there was a lot of inequity in values of homes, whereas some really high valued homes were actually taxed at a lesser value or appraised at a lesser value than lower income type homes. I know that when this was presented to the county commission, they appointed a committee or a workforce or something to work with you to come up with recommendations on how to correct this. Can you tell us what some of those recommendations were, and will they be implemented before your next assessment?
Yes, the recommendations are actually already been implemented. We're working on reappraisal 2025 every day. And a lot of the issues that came from the ad hoc reappraisal committee have already had things put in place to overcome those. We now have, what you're talking about, I think mostly is that our luxury home market now shows sort of a gap in the assessment. Now, before I go any further, I'll say, also remember, the luxury home market value that you see today was based on 1920 sales, okay? Which luxury home today is selling for much different than they were back in those days too, okay? So that's been a big change. However, we today have done a reorganization within our organization. We now have a luxury home specialist who's also certified by the North Carolina Department of Revenue, certified by the North Carolina Appraisal Board, and also holds a residential evaluation specialist designation from the International Association of Assessment Officers. So we now will specifically look at that market. That is now a market that has separated itself from a lot of other markets around. So we are doing that. The other things that we have implemented is that we now have a full reappraisal analyst team that work every day on nothing but that. So we now know every day what's going on as far as the sales transactions coming through. We're making new predictions. We're using the automated valuation models. So that team now stays in the loop all the time and only focuses on just that. The other one that you may hear, and we talked a little bit about inequities and some of our neighborhoods and some of those things that were talked about. We are again looking to redelineating those neighborhoods, and we will focus on some of that coming up in 2025 to identify that they will not be any neighborhoods that should ever be considered inequitable for any reason related to race or socioeconomics. Okay? I don't believe it exists today, and I do not believe it will exist moving forward. So those are a few things, and if I missed one, then please point it out to me, and I'll be happy to be more specific about it.
Thank you, good work. Any other questions or comments, Mr. Miller? I just have to say, Mr. Miller, I think your motto, "We value Buncombe," is a very clever logo. So thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Next item up is item B, Stormwater Program Update, and Attorney Jackson, give us an update.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Town Council. So the town, as you know, has an important role to play in protecting our, the area's surface waters from water quality impacts from stormwater. We've got three, what they call receiving waters, Reems Creek, Gill Branch, and Lake Louise. And so those are the three waterways that we really are to be protecting from pollutants. Because of this, we are required under the EPA and the state regulations to carry an NPDES permit, a National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit. And with that, we're required to have a stormwater management plan. You've heard me talk about this from time to time over the last really 2 years. It's been a long process since I want to say August of 2020 when we were recently audited. We have what's called an MS4 stormwater system, municipal separate storm sewer system that we are responsible for maintaining in good working order to protect those waters. There are several components, 6 components to be exact, that we are required to really have programs in place to address: public education and outreach, public involvement and participation. Both of those, we have partnered with Land to Sky Regional Council, and we do receive a great deal of assistance from them on those 2 issues. Illicit discharge detection and elimination. That's something that is a town responsibility that you're going to be hearing from me more on that in the coming months. Construction site runoff control and post-construction site runoff control. The county actually assists us with an intergovernmental agreement that was put in place a year or so ago on those matters. So if you're developing property, then you most often will need to get permits through the sedimentation erosion control folks and the stormwater folks if it's a large enough development that requires post-construction controls. The last one is pollution prevention and good housekeeping. And these are town functions to make sure that our facilities and services that we're providing are not adding to the problem, but addressing what we need to address. The good news is that it's taken a couple of years, like 2.5 years, but we do now have a newly reissued NPDES permit and an approved stormwater management plan. So I will be working with Public Works Director Pennell's staff, he and his staff, in order to help get that program really up and running and implemented, so that all of the work that we're required to do under that permit and plan, we put into place. There is a fair amount of accountability in auditing of these type programs because they are federal and state regulations, and we actually have an annual report that's due at the end of this week for the previous fiscal year. So we're setting ourselves up to be in good shape on that. Thought it was interesting that there are 109 active NPDES permits for municipal stormwater systems across the state. Normally, our size would eliminate us from having this type of permit. For instance, Brevard does not have a permit, but because we are in close proximity to City of Asheville, we are required to have one because we are in what's considered an urbanized area. So I mentioned a partnership with. Any questions about where we are on this? Let me interrupt myself and you. to say that one of the most exciting things that you're going to see in this next year, in addition to sort of the full funding of this program and the full implementation of it, is the street sweeper that you approved in the budget. That's a very large tool, figuratively and literally, that will be helping the town keep keep the leaves out of the intakes, and thus out of the stormwater system, and that's going to be a big improvement. So we're excited about that. I mentioned, so any questions so far? I mentioned the partnership that we have with Land to Sky Regional Council, and I'm going to kind of move straight into the next agenda item unless there are questions. So Dr. Mary Roderick is with the Land to Sky Regional Council. She is the planning director and is a stormwater expert with the training and passion for it. And so she was able to get some grant funding for the town of Weaverville that was able to assist us with a couple of projects, including the mapping of the whole stormwater system, which that was accomplished this spring. We're rolling that out as far as having it be interactive and having our folks have the tools necessary to interact with that. But she was also able to provide an evaluation or have some grant funding to provide an evaluation of the Main Street Nature Park and the stormwater control measures that are incorporated into that park. And I'm going to, if you can imagine the parking lot in the back of Town Hall and the clock parking lot, all of the stormwater runoff goes to the back of those parking lots and then down into some detention ponds that are nice features within our nature park. And so I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Roderick and let her talk a little bit about some of the evaluation that was done on this nature park.
Thank you, Jennifer. And Jennifer is the only lawyer I work with on stormwater, and she's outstanding, I just have to say. It's amazing. She's done a great job with this. Do I have a clicker, or should I just say next slide? Okay, all right. You know, the tax assessor's notes where he just flips each page, I realized that is really good because you see it. That was seamless. Next time I will do that. I did not bring my notes. And see that I'm going to have to glance over here since I did not bring them. I might just grab my computer in a second. So I wanted to just situate this, and Jennifer already started situating the nature park concept plan within the overall program and project. We received a little over $50,000 in funding from North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality for about a 15-month time frame. See how awesome she is? I know you know. So as Jennifer mentioned, the project really has 4 components. 3 of those are directly supporting your stormwater program and your permit requirements. So my goal is to kind of, you know, kill 2 birds with 1 stone, find as many ways as possible to meet those requirements and do other things. The reason we added the Green Infrastructure Improvement Plan to that, which was going to include the community center and nature park, but we realized upon further investigation and working with Dale that really the community center is in good shape. The path behind it, I think, needs a different approach in order to maybe address some of the erosion, but we're still with the nature park. DEQ really wanted to see innovative approaches to water quality improvement and stormwater management. So they funded the system inventory and map, the app integration, that app on the mobile phone, like the tax assessor, we also have an app for inspections, both of the system and for illicit discharge, which Jennifer mentioned. So that should make that a pretty quick and painless process, Dale. To do that, to meet those requirements of your permit, I still need to do that integration, but it's queued up. The inventory is ready. That's what I need in order to be able to do it. And then public education engagement. We'll be also doing that within the nature park work, both through invasive removals, a volunteer day to do invasive removals, and live staking to address some of the erosion that's in the park. So those are kind of low-hanging fruit, and they allow us to meet some of the permit requirements within this broader project. But I am really here to talk about the concept plan, and I want to anchor it in the watershed assessment that we did. So that big blue blob on the right-hand side, that's the drainage area for the nature park. The nature park is that little yellow outline, the parcel. So it has an 80-acre drainage area, and you really have to understand that if you want to understand the hydrology on the park. You have to know what it's receiving. Jennifer mentioned the 2 parking lots. That was also part of the evaluation, as well as 2,100 linear feet of stream. They were looked at for erosion and bank stability, culvert and bridge crossings. Invasive vegetation was identified, and some general ecological and recreational enhancement opportunities. So that's what you're seeing in the concept plan that's in your packets. On the next slide, you'll just see a few photos from the field work. Tim Ormond, I forgot to mention our partners on that first slide. Blue Earth Planning and Engineering and Design, Osgood Landscape Architecture, and Riverlink is supporting the public engagement. So the map on the left just shows some of the points where they've identified issues or taken tracked kind of some of the assessment issues, and I'll keep going because I know that this is running long and we're running late. I know y'all are used to this. It's past my bedtime. Just kidding. So a big component of the nature park concept plan, there's more to it, but I'm going to start with the water quality features. Those are the stormwater control measure retrofits. So the photos on the left are as the ponds exist now. The south is actually on the top for some reason, and the north is on the bottom. And then potentially with some changes, the kind of ecological improvements, aquatic ecological improvements that we could achieve, both to optimize stormwater treatment, to reduce flooding and stream bank erosion, because those parking lots and that drainage area is putting a lot of water into those ponds. That would require some expanded footprint and volume capacity of the ponds. Also for the ecology, some shallow wetland zones, so they're not all at one depth. A wetland is actually at lots of different depths of natural wetland. So, the idea being to create those zones so you can enhance the wetland vegetation, which then can improve pollutant removal. That's one of the big things that you can do with that, as well as just improve the aesthetics. It looks prettier, yeah. A few other components focused right with the stormwater control measures is just kind of pedestrian access, especially to the south stormwater pond, possibly some educational elements if that was desired. That is, living laboratories, wetlands are learning environments. They're great for schools. Dale mentioned that I think it's an elementary school across the street already comes over to the park regularly. So, that's what a lot of these ideas are what you're going to see in the concept plan. Next slide. Of course, any concept plan, interesting, some of the headings, starts with the site inventory. I'm just going to keep going out of the interest of time. To the concept plan itself on the next slide. For some reason, I don't know why I didn't realize these were animated. You can make all the things show up, James. Thank you. Sorry, that was not intentional. So the concept plan. This builds on the 2017 master plan that y'all already have. I provided that. Jennifer gave it to me. I gave it to the consultants. I said, start with this. People already thought about this. They already have good ideas. What can we build on? That master plan wasn't done though with water quality as its kind of primary motivator, right? That's not often the primary focus of a park plan. So that's not a criticism. That's pretty normal. So we just shifted the lens a little bit to say, because we're doing this within water quality, with a water quality perspective and with water quality funding, what can we do to improve water quality in the park? So, of course, maintaining the nature focus, it's the nature park, enhancing the forest sponge function. So that can be achieved through some vegetation management of the trees as well, not just the wetlands, introducing and enhancing some of the native vegetation and habitat. I've already mentioned pedestrian access and circulation, so there's some more detailed ideas about that. Nature play, which I'm very excited about as a mom. I'll have a few images of those, and potentially increasing the educational elements. And I've gone back and forth, Dale, with the consultants on this. I'm always very careful about promising to reduce maintenance. They swear that, I know, they swear that some of the improvements that they foresee for the stormwater control measures would actually reduce the maintenance needed for those. Now, again, if we were gonna, get to implementation, we want to evaluate that very carefully. Because that is important. I work with a lot of public works directors and staff, and I'm very sensitive to that. On the next slide, I'm not going to go into detail on this. They're just, the pink dots are potential new entryways. I think one of them was already proposed, maybe the Spruce Street was as well. Those are detailed in the plan though, which you all have. I just wanted to kind of highlight that those are there. And then on the next slide, there's just some images. I want to focus, we've already mentioned that we believe that we can do some enhancements to the stormwater control measures that would improve their function. Those are some images of that. And on the right are these idea of nature play elements. So, this is a nature park. We're not going to go, the suggestion is not to go put a big playground in the middle of it, but to use, there's a big tree that's kind of already a structure that kids use. Kids are already, or adults too, not to say that adults don't play, are already accessing the creek in certain areas. And so this would just introduce some more intentional elements that would still be very natural, but could enhance those opportunities. On the next slide are just some of the images of the forest sponge and vernal pools, which are shallow ephemeral depressions that can be implemented with a very little bit of groundwork and berms, logs. It's not a big structural intervention, but it can create some more water retention in the park so that it's not running off, it's not eroding the banks, the stream banks. There is a fair amount of erosion on those stream banks, which causes sediment, and sediment affects water quality. We're all, always getting back to the water quality issue. With that, I just want to highlight a couple of the next steps. Obviously, I have very limited amount of time here. I imagine we will not have as much discussion as we did with the tax assessor, which was fascinating. But I do want to incorporate, it really is. I want to incorporate, of course, council and staff feedback. I have met with Jennifer, James, and Dale. I'd love for y'all to spend some time with that concept plan, and then reach out to me with any questions or comments you have. Based on your feedback, determine our implementation priorities. Are you interested in nature play? Are you interested in some of the enhancements to stormwater control measures? Based on that, I would come back with a recommendation for community engagement. Certainly if we are, if we're just enhancing the stormwater control measures, that's really a very technical thing that we may not need a lot of community engagement on. If we want to add nature play or some of the other enhancements, and there are other enhancements in the concept plan around the pavilion, around the circulation or the access, those are really things where obviously we're going to want our community input on that, because they're the ones who are going to be using it, right? So already in the scope, so that's kind of to be determined based on your feedback is, what do we do next? But regardless of that, there will be, as a part of the grant scope that we have now, we will complete cost estimates for everything recommended, because that really helps set priorities too, right? What's this going to cost? So we will be completing cost estimates in the technical report. I've already had one of my colleagues looking at part of funding and making sure that this project, for example, that's a parks funding resource, would be eligible. I know Pigeon River Fund would be interested. That's on my mind always, is how do we implement this? If you want to implement it, that is always your decision. That is not my decision. Another thing within the scope of the grant will be these 2 volunteer days, one in the fall in October, which I will coordinate with staff, and the other in the spring for the live staking. And that also checks our boxes for our MS4 permit activities. So that's my goal, is how can we make sure we're improving water quality and meeting our permit requirements, and hopefully doing something cool in the nature park that's already really wonderful. It is an amazing asset. These are just some suggestions. You have my email on the slides, my phone number. Jennifer has that. Speed dial. I would love to entertain any questions you have right now, but I understand for the sake of time, if you want to do that offline, please reach out to me.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your work and your understanding. Are there any immediate questions for Dr. Rodman? Thank
If,
you.
if I could just make a comment, this is the perfect example of what we would want to include in a strategic plan.
Yeah.
In order, we've got a whole list of major projects that council and staff wants to accomplish, and this would be one of those that we could easily set out in a strategic plan process. So,
Absolutely.
Each of you have a brochure in front of you that kind of talks about the stormwater program. There are other brochures on the table for anybody that in the attending tonight that would like to pick one up. I think Mary was the primary drafter of this, so thank you for that.
Yes.
Thank you much.
And
Thank you very much.
This is not urgent. I understand you have very many priorities. We will complete our project by March. And, but I obviously, as you move forward with strategic priorities and your comprehensive planning efforts, please let me know when and if you want to talk more about some of the ideas for the major park.
Good deal.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next item D, the Elk Cove Watershed Trail Design. You know that Manager Coffey and our volunteer Mark Indries have been working on this, and is Mark available? Is he with us this evening? He's with us online to answer any questions. But Manager Coffey, could you give us an update?
Certainly can, and thank you again. You have in, beginning on page 47 with the agenda item, you have a copy of the trail layout design and planning quote that was provided to you during the budget process. This is for a total of $4,980. And then behind that, you have a number of maps that Mr. Indries created. And all we're asking for tonight is we've been working on the management plan draft to bring to you for your review and discussion and eventual approval probably. But one of the things that I feel like is important before we get to that phase of approving a management plan is to get the elevated trail design folks out and have them come back to us with what they recommend with regard to a trail system at Elk Cove. And what Mr. Indries shares with me is that what they will do will also include estimates for costs. And I think that's very important for this project, especially because we already know that there are a number of places in that 300 acres out there where we're going to have to build bridges across small streams. We're going to have to make some improvements. And so in order to even plan for doing that and before we can plan for people using it, we feel like we need to know what that is going to look like as far as resources, whether it be cost and or who does the work, those kinds of things. So it would be my recommendation that you go ahead and allow me to authorize this work to be done by Elevated Trail Design and let that inform the management plan further. And Mr. Indries could not be here present with us tonight due to illness, so he believe he is still online if you have questions of him.
What questions do you all have, either for the manager or for Mr. Indries? Just to make sure.
Well, I was just going to mention, and I brought this up before, I think that there's organizations like Carolina Mountain Club that have a lot of volunteers, myself included, and a few others in town where they do trail maintenance and limited trail design or building. So let's say they come up with a plan of, we could do 3 miles of trail here, here, and here. It's very feasible. We could have a body of volunteers in Weaverville that could go do that at minimal cost. It's a group that does this every day and is out there on the AT and the Mountain to Sea Trail all the time.
I would imagine as part of the study, they would also be calculating what level of usage we would get. Would that be part of the scope of this
That was not actually in the proposal. We could ask them to give us some ideas on that. I really wonder how
I think that
difficult
would
that
help
might
us
be.
determine if we're going to spend money, how much usage are you going to get?
Right.
Now, I don't know what kind of data they would use to determine that, but
Right.
we have some kind
I'm
of
not sure.
idea.
I think I would probably want to know also if the trails are moderate or what's those words, you know, high and low, and because we reach a point where Doug and I were talking about this, you know, who's going to use this if they're all really rugged?
They're not. I mean, and Mark's been out there, I'm sure. Is Mark online or?
He's on.
Yeah, can y'all hear me?
I've been out there a few times. I know others have, and it's the reason I got excited about it a couple of years ago. My wife and I went out there with another couple that hikes a lot. Is there's old logging roads in there. They're very rolling and moderate, and there's no real killer hills or anything. It's, you know, most levels and people who live in Weaverville could go for a stroll or a hike. So it's not like going out to Pisgah or something.
Okay. Because I mean, mountains to the sea is really nice. You just can't find anywhere to park.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which, by the way, will be an issue that will have to be addressed with this one as well. Parking be a substantial conversation, I would
Right,
guess.
especially since it's the conservative easement.
Yes.
Okay.
Can folks hear me at all?
Any questions or comments on this issue?
It's great.
If not, is there a motion to permit the manager to authorize elevated trail design to complete the study?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Thank you, second not required, but thank you.
I know.
We got rid of that.
Old habits
All those in
die
favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no.
I wasn't gonna correct that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item up is fireworks public input, and we have a few people who want to speak on that. Let me just preface this by saying that we want to hear from the public, and I know that many of us have heard several comments already this week from the public regarding fireworks. And this conversation started a couple of months ago because we were looking for what are some alternatives to the fireworks display. And we had directed the town manager to look at some alternatives. She did come up with 4 alternatives. One was a festival type of environment that would not include fireworks. One was low impact type of fireworks, which she basically told us isn't much different than regular fireworks. One was a laser show, which sounds cool, but you really have to have something to project it on. If you have a cloudy night, it works good. If you don't have a cloudy night, it doesn't for Weaverville because we don't have any like tall buildings or other features to project onto. And one was a drone show, which sounds really cool and I think would be very popular, but also turns out to be rather expensive. So I just want to say that was the original impetus for this discussion, was to look at alternatives. So just to bring up to speed on that, our first speaker, and I'm not going to go through all the rules for public comment, but basically you've got 3 minutes to tell us your comments before the buzzer over that Selena has will go off. And also be nice. First up is Donna Manbelt.
Good evening, council and Town of Weaverville staff. I'm Donna Manbelt. I live at 53 Highland Street. Full disclosure, I am, sounds like still on the planning board, but I'm here as a private citizen tonight. My husband and I moved here, actually, I'm sorry, I'm here to support the continuation of the Town of Weaverville's fireworks display on July 4th. My husband Tom and I moved here on July 4th, 2017. We followed the fireworks till they landed on Main Street a few years ago. Every year we get our friends and our neighbors and our camp chairs and we set up on Main Street. Looking around, I observe hundreds of children with their families celebrating July 4th. Babies to teenagers, all making memories just like I did with my parents growing up watching fireworks and just like I did with my own children. It's a fun-filled day culminating in the much anticipated fireworks display, which is fun, free, and safe. Some people have concerns about safety in Asheville, and parking is a nightmare. By hosting the July 4th celebration, Weaverville is showing how much they care about families. It's one of the things that makes this town special. It's the reason disabled children can now play on the swings at Lake Louise because of the new parking spaces. And kids of all ages can fish off the new pier and dance to the concerts in the nature park on summer Saturdays. Not to mention the wonderful new community center with a beautiful room, big enough for a wedding and very affordable. I should know, my son got married there 2 years ago. I'd also like to mention that even if the town of Weaverville bans the fireworks display, I have some very patriotic neighbors who actually start a week before July 4th, setting off their own fireworks, including, and they will almost certainly continue to do so, including our neighbor up the street, who I swear fires off a cannon. The first time we heard it, we thought his house had exploded, but he just found some really loud fireworks. If the town is going to stop the fireworks display because of the noise, then it seems to me the town would then need to have an ordinance banning loud noises and fireworks and then be able to enforce it. If it's a question of cost, then maybe have a shorter show. The fireworks are once a year for 20 minutes. It would be incredibly sad to lose this activity that so many families look forward to every year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jennifer Young?
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Just gotta get it.
Target, set, go.
Synchronize it.
My name is Jennifer Young, and I live on 54 South Main Street, directly across from where the fireworks are shot off every year. And I'm also running for a seat on this council. To the best of my recollection, these fireworks have been going on since about 1979. I know I was still in high school, and this has been going on close to 40, 45 years. And since my house is directly across the street, I'm probably the greatest impacted of anybody with these fireworks. The road has to be blocked in front of my house, so it affects my egress. It affects some rental properties I have down the street with people taking parking spaces of their property where they live. And then I get the shrapnel from the fireworks in my front yard. But I consider all of that a blessing, because this is not just another town. This is a community. And this is a place where families can come, just like Ms. Belt said, and enjoy the day and enjoy the fireworks. I understand that there are some people who feel that they're greatly impacted by these fireworks. They are bothered by the noise. Their dogs may be afraid of the noise. They may have some PTSD issues. They may have some concerns of damage to their properties from the things that fall out of the sky onto their roofs. But I can tell you in the 45 years that my family has lived on this street, and we have had these fireworks since the late 70s, I have never had damage. I have never had any issues with people walking up and down the street or, any fire, occurring on my roof or any damage to my trees or my grass. But what I do see is families and this community joining together as a community. I also see this as an economic boost to the town, where you have hundreds, if not 1,000 or more people coming in and spending money at the restaurants and the stores and enjoying Weaverville as a town, and not just coming here to another festival, which is, all the festivals are great, and all the festivals create this sense of community we have all come to know and love, and probably like being in Weaverville, and why it is such a popular destination for people to move to. But I do think that having this event helps keep this town distinct from Asheville and from Morris Hill and from some other places around, that we still value community and we still value families and that opportunity to get out and visit with each other. So these minor inconveniences that I go through every year, one day a year for 20 minutes, although I have dogs, and yes, it does upset my dogs, I consider it a very minor inconvenience, because those are all offset for the sense of community that I so much enjoy. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Daryl Fox.
They've covered pretty much everything I was going to cover. I'm Daryl Fox. I live at 28 Central Avenue. I've been there for 32 years. Before that, here in town, I'm 58 years old. So basically been here for 58 years. Consider myself a local. Tradition is what I'd like to talk to you about. Some of y'all, I've seen in the agenda about the homecoming parade, the homecoming parade, the Christmas parade, and some of that stuff. Fireworks is on the agenda tonight with that. That's tradition. That's tradition in the town to us that live here and have for years. My family brought me to the fireworks. I came to the fireworks with my girlfriend. Now my wife brought my children to the fireworks here. I continue to bring my grandkids now. We really enjoy it. It's a great place to live. Mr. Jackson said it the best, that it's a desired place to live, and it is. And I think when most of y'all moved here, it was the same for you. It was like, I really like this town. I want to be part of this town. And I really think that the traditions is some of the things that should be left alone. I mean, if it's a huge majority, I think there's 4,000 taxpayers in Weaverville, that's probably pretty close. I mean, if you've got 2,000 people complaining, maybe we should put it to a vote on the voting time, you know? And that's just my opinion. I know, talked to a lot of neighbors that are the same way. A lot of them's not gonna come and talk. Hopefully they'll email you and let you know where we stand as a community, but I would really appreciate you guys. I know it's your decision, but it's really the people that put you in office. I really wish you would take the time to walk the neighborhoods like you did when you were running for election. I've seen a lot of you at my door. I mean, I live right here. Just like Jennifer, we've had a lot of paper over the years that's hit the ground. We pick it up. Years before we had a garage, we would wash off our cars after the fireworks. It's not a problem. We are dog people. I have dogs that just raise Cain when the fireworks go off. But they do the same thing when thunder goes off, and we have more thunder than we have fireworks. I mean, it's the same thing for them. But, you know, and I don't want to disrespect anybody that's against it. I know that you guys have to work hard, Public Works, Police Department, including you guys, to put that on, and it's your time on the 4th of July. But I think that when you took the job, that's what you signed up for. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Jerry West Davis.
Ditto to Daryl and the rest. I'm Jerry Davis, and I live at 21 College Crescent Street. I was born on Central Avenue and moved to Grand 300 yards. Still living there. I just want to support the fireworks because we've had it the majority of my life. I've been on committees before, the JCs, JSETs, we have worked our tails off for a year, all year, to pay for the fireworks for a couple of years. We sponsored it, but the town let us put it on. I just want to say, I have every year 4 to 5 families call and say, they come from Asheville and Mars Hill and say, Jerry, can I park in your driveway? And I say, you sure can. So make available parking. They come in town, spend money, and they like Weaverville's fireworks a whole lot better than Asheville. And I just want to say that we have to keep that going. And it's a must, it's a tradition. And you can have festivals, but if you don't have the fireworks, they're not going to come. 4th of July, to some people, that's what it's all about. And they enjoy the other things. But fireworks is a must with some people and their families. I just want to take the time to tell you that we support it and anything we can do to help keep having it. And Johanna, thank you for bringing up the dog situation. I live at 21 College Crescent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your input and for the different amounts of input that we've all received this past week or so.
Mr. Mayor, there are a couple of folks that are online. Do you want to check and see if anybody would like to
Sure.
present?
If there's anyone who's online, we're going to give you an opportunity to speak as well. I can't see you all.
I don't see anybody.
Seeing none, we'll move on. Thank you. The next item up is item F, voluntary annexation petition for 492 Reems Creek Road, and the town clerk will bring us up to date on this issue.
Good evening, council members. Mayor Fitzsimmons. Before you is an application received for a voluntary annexation petition. It consists of approximately 1.7 acres at 492 Reems Creek Road. The property requesting annexation is contiguous to the town's municipal limits. And if council chooses to move forward with the petition, this would authorize the clerk's office to investigate the sufficiency of the annexation petition, and then it would move before the planning board, and they would assign a initial zoning. The applicant is requesting R3, which is consistent with the surrounding parcel at 480 and 488 Reems Creek Road.
So just make sure, this is just an additional piece of property to the townhome project, which is already planned for 480 or 484. Is that correct? Same owner, just an additional piece of land they've acquired?
Yeah, I believe they're under contract, and so the developer is the agent of the owner.
So with the addition of this land to that existing project that's already been approved, does this change their development plans in any way?
If I can interrupt, it's my understanding that it will not. They're not increasing any density. They're not adding any units. This would only be sort of an additional amenity area perhaps, but not changing any of the dwelling unit count. At least that was what I have been told.
Any other questions, questions or comments about this annexation petition?
Well, if it were not part of that, then I don't think R3 would be the correct zone. But if it definitely is part of that project, I mean, because it's still in this lady's name that owns it right now. That's how it's presented to us. So as long as we know that it's part of the project.
It was, if I'm remembering correctly, and some of this information we can bring back to you at the next step. But as I remember, the overall development plan, the survey of the project development did include this piece, but it was they just did not include it in the first annexation that the Ponders brought forward because they didn't have a contract yet on it.
Any other questions? If not, is there a motion to approve this voluntary annexation?
I'll make that motion.
Hang on.
Hold on.
You're not approving an annexation.
All right.
There's a resolution that's attached to your agenda item adopting the resolution.
Correct.
Page 63.
Is there a motion to approve step one?
I make a motion, we send it forward to planning and zoning for review.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Tamara. Next item is item G, comprehensive land use plan, goals and priorities update, and planning director Eller, tell us what you know. And make sure you turn in those things to the tax assessor, buddy. You want to get us in trouble.
We are in contact with the tax department, GIS folks, the planning folks. We talk about many and several things, changes of zoning. Oftentimes do come up in those conversations, so we'll make sure that we continue those efforts. Thank you, Mayor and Council, but I'm before you this evening to speak on the update of the comprehensive land use plan. Believe it or not, we're approaching another year in the life of that document. One of the things that we do annually is an update of the comprehensive land use plan. is update the action plan table with priorities. And staff is respectfully requesting, as politely and forcefully as we can, that town council participate in this process by letting us know what your priorities are. The planning board and staff both, we look forward to your guidance on these issues, so we do hope that you'll fill out the table and be available, have that document with you and available at least by the joint meeting with the planning board, which is slated, as I understand it, to occur on September 19th. Ask that we keep in mind that number 1 is the highest priority, number 3 is the lowest priority. As a point of reference, that number 1 carries with it a general understanding that that particular item will be addressed or accomplished within 12 months of the update of the comprehensive land use plan. I would again respectfully ask that if we have additions to this, that it is extremely advantageous that they be included in this table so staff can forecast out the workload for the forthcoming year. This is the policy document for the coming months for land use regulations. So we ask that you take this seriously. And again, the planning board and staff looks forward to your guidance on these issues. In the interest of time, if you have any questions about maybe why staff arrived at a position on one of these issues, I'm happy to field those questions. If you don't mind sending me an email or giving me a shout, we can have that conversation. If you have any questions about what the individual goals may mean, if there's any discrepancy there, again, feel free to reach out. But that's all I have for council this evening. Happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
So James has been very polite about it, but so the planning board has already done their voting. The staff has already done theirs, and now it's our turn. And last year, we were the slackers, myself included. So please try and get this completed and to James in time so he can calculate it for the joint meeting on September 19th. So let's say if you could get it done by September 15th, that would be adequate.
What day is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, give us a date. Give us a realistic date.
At least a week in advance would be ideal.
So let's say September 10th.
Yeah, the
Well,
11th is on a Monday.
September, closest to September 10th as possible, get this information back to James.
Councilmember Nagel requested a printed out copy, and if anybody else would prefer to work off of a printed copy, just let us know. We're happy to get it to you.
Actually, that would be easier for me too. I hate to be an old paper
Agreed.
guy, but in this case, it would be helpful. Thank you, James. Next item up is item H, tax collection updates, and Attorney Jackson. I got you. Yeah, your special.
Thank you. So every year around this time, Buncombe County presents to you their year-end statement that gives you your tax collection rate and how they kind of finished up. Finance Director Dozier kind of spilled the good news at the last meeting. And what you have in your packet tonight is the formal combined FY 22-23 tax settlement, which is a document that the county tax collector is under is legally required to provide to you. It does show that Weaverville's collection rate is 99.95, and that only about $1,800 is left out of that year's taxes to be collected, which is a really good amount. And my guess is that over the next few years, that amount will go down even further. Based on some updated guidance that the property tax experts at the UNC School of Government have provided to the county, the county has advised us and the other municipalities that they collect for, which is virtually all of them, that there are a couple things that need to be handled a little bit differently, a little more formally. And so I wanted to kind of walk through that. This doesn't really affect who's doing the work and how that work is being done, but there's some preliminary steps that need to kind of fill in the gaps. And the biggest change is that town council will need to formally appoint a town tax collector. And then that town tax collector, through an addendum to your tax collection agreement with the county, delegates all of that responsibility to the county officials in that regard. Among town's eligible staff, and there's certain members that are not eligible to serve as a tax collector, including specifically our finance director. Those two roles must be different for obvious reasons. But it seems like I am the one that has the most experience with property tax collection, and I am willing, if you would wish me to be appointed in that role. Again, just a formality more than anything, but I'm willing to take that on. Other related actions are to approve that tax settlement that we just spoke about, the appointment and setting the bond for the town tax collector, adopting an order of collection, approving the addendum to the tax collections agreement. And then, like you used to do, and some of you have been on here long enough that you probably remember approving tax refunds and releases with your consent agenda. Those things will formally be presented to you again likely in your consent agenda. Just again, formal approvals. And the reason that these formalities are important is you've got a tremendous amount of your revenue within your budget comes from your property tax revenue. We want to make sure, my guess is that somewhere across the state, somebody was doing this wrong, and was perhaps challenged. And so, and I would say the vast majority of municipalities actually are having their counties do their tax collection. And so all of them are just tightening that up, and to make sure that the revenue that you are relying on for your expenditures in the budget are secure and not in jeopardy.
Can I ask you a quick question? Since I interrupted you anyways. Page 75, why are they sharing, did I mishear you? Or why are they sharing, I don't care what they're collecting for the county. Am I misreading this? Is that like a law?
No, they provide because they collect for themselves, the county, and the other municipalities. It's done as a combined tax settlement.
But
So
we
you
know
don't-
our rate.
Yes, your rate is in there.
Yeah.
It's, so really, you're only concerned with that. The county tax collector doesn't do 5 separate tax settlements. She does one that combines all of those.
Plus the county taxes.
Yes. So
I'll call her and let her know we don't need it. We just want to know what she's collecting for us. I don't care what she's collecting for Asheville.
I get it, but because this is her settlement.
I gotcha.
It's got to come to you.
Yep.
Got to come to you and be formally, before you can adopt the order of collection for her to go forward with this year's taxes. And I know I got my tax bill earlier this week or last week. She needs that order of collection.
I get it.
And the approval of last year's settlement is a prerequisite.
Yeah, but nowhere in these 4 pages tell us what she collected for us.
Yeah, it does.
Which page? Why am I missing it?
Yeah.
9.95%.
That's all right. So I want to see the Weaverville page. I'm slow.
It is,
It's here.
it's right before, it's between Woodfin and Montreat.
Okay.
So Jennifer, question.
Well, just tell me what page it's on, or have
Did it
James pull it up on the big screen.
Were there some that were
I've
skipped?
seen it already.
Yeah. Huh. No, I don't want to see it on your paper. I want to see it in my agenda and on the screen.
There you go.
I just thought I was stupid. I'm like, where's
It
Weaverville?
does, so you're missing, good eyes.
I wonder if
You
it just,
just missed, she missed. Okay, no worries.
Combining issue, some
It would just, yeah, I got you now. Now it makes more sense. Yeah, Tanya Walker, Gretton.
You want to pass it around?
Yes.
Thank you.
You want to take a picture of it and I'll email it to you?
It shows a net levy of $3,991,231 and some cents collected, $3,989,357.41, uncollected, $1,874.37, percent collected, 99.95.
So, I'll admit it when I'm wrong. I was opposed to the county doing this, and I know Tanya fought hard for it, and so did Selena, but, I think maybe I was wrong.
Oh, my goodness.
Wait a minute. Get that in the paper.
Yeah, you can print that based on, Elizabeth still cut out your headline when it says Nagel was right.
Right.
I still have that frame, so I was wrong. I think it was a good recommendation. I still don't like the county, but,
Print t-shirts.
What they're doing good on tax.
Need t-shirts on it. So this position where is this like just
It's a
ceremonial?
formality.
Okay, so I
I'll take-
thought we
if
had to
appointed, if
have the clerk do it. Throw her to the wolves.
My recommendation is
Okay.
Okay, but literally you're just,
Hiring then the county.
it's a technicality.
okay, because we got out of this business, Pam, and now I want to throw it.
Signed that agreement.
It's not a new position on our pay scale. It's not.
Getting raised.
Jennifer's not getting,
That's for raise, Jennifer.
Yeah, that's up to y'all.
that's up to y'all, yeah.
The addendum to the tax collection agreement that is in your packet does talk very specifically about this and how with this agreement or the addendum, I can delegate all of those responsibilities to the county, so they will continue to do that. I'll take an oath, again, should I be appointed, take an oath tomorrow. I have to be properly bonded, which will get in place tomorrow, and then everything will proceed just exactly as normal. I will probably present the monthly tax statements.
It's gotta be separation.
There's gotta be
Finance.
separation. I will present the refunds release requests, but other than that, it's
So those have to be then, so you'll
tax
present
reports.
Or quarterly. But we don't quarterly.
We typically do that monthly now.
Well, it's under consent.
Yeah, that's what it
So,
would be.
but I'm wondering, do you have to do like refunds and releases?
That's as needed.
Okay.
Yeah, that's as needed.
But we're gonna look at you totally differently now. You need the tax man.
The tax man.
This is great.
Are there any other questions regarding this issue?
There is a resolution to make it easier for y'all to do all of those things, and I'm happy to pause and talk about any of those particular elements, but there is a resolution that accomplishes all of that should you wish to adopt it.
Page 79.
Page 72. Am I right? Page 72, yes.
Yes.
79.
79.
79, excuse me. Is there someone want a motion that we pass the resolution on page 79?
Get a different document?
Oh, 72 is just the agenda item about it, sorry.
He's special.
Yeah, I'm special. Is there a motion to recommend the pass of the
I'll make that motion that,
Resolution on page
I want to make the
79.
motion that Jefferson be the tax collector.
There you go. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's yours, Jennifer.
Thank you very much.
Next up is a quarterly report from the police department. Chief Davis.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Once again, I present to you the quarterly report. With this report, I think last time I said that it was probably slow, I think was an adjective I used. This time, I'm going to use just average for this report. This time, we had a total of 1,790 activities in the last quarter, and you compare that to the quarter of last year, and that's 1,886. So there's hardly a change in that category. Our number of arrests are down. They're down pretty significantly We had 54 this time last year, and there's 18 this year. Accidents, the accident rate has also gone down. Last year it was 57 vehicles and 12 injuries, and this year it's 35 and 4 injuries. On the next page of the activities that we have, whenever it comes to the amount of larcenies, you would know it because this is a 3-month period, so I caution you to take a look at about the middle of the page. The number of our theft shows 11 that we had this quarter. Those numbers are actually going up when you compare it to this year. We have a little bit of an increase in that category. The other numbers that we have that are here, we have 0 thefts from buildings, and we have 0 thefts from motor vehicles on the good side of that.
So what's another theft then?
I'm sorry, what?
Is that person to person then?
That's those numbers.
Like if you got theft from a building, theft from a motor vehicle, other theft.
Other theft, larceny, like if there's a shoplifting is probably the most, the one that you can compare that to the most. Some of those numbers, those codings are different, and it depends on how that call is built at dispatch. So in other words, it might look like a shoplifting, they're categorized the same. Shoplifting and a larceny is categorized as the same thing, even though it's built differently by dispatch, if that makes sense. Those numbers also, we have a total of, let's see if I get this right here. Those numbers we had for 2022, just the property crimes, just the larceny numbers we had for 2022, we had 166 of those. 114 were at Walmart, for an example. So we have about 70% of all of our calls for a larceny or shoplifting at one store. Getting on to the next slide, I think whenever we have call response times, again, our call response times are trending upward. Those are pretty significant whenever it comes to the average priority calls. I think I explained the last time that I was up here that these are the complexity of the calls that were going on, not necessarily the volume of calls we're going on. If we have, let's say, a driving while impaired arrest that takes several hours to do, or it takes a number of officers. If there's a collision involving an impaired driver, it will take us significantly longer. Dealing with people with mental issues, things like that, they all take a lot longer. Also, that dispatch is, if they hold a call for whatever that reason, and they don't dispatch us immediately, there's, for whatever the reason, if that call is held, then those numbers will go up. Let's see here. And I think the next slide, give you a little update. I know everybody was excited about the electric vehicles, but we're getting there. We're getting to a hybrid only, as the manager pointed out. We're getting to a hybrid and electric vehicle only fleet. It's taking us a while. The upfitting is going a little bit slower than what we'd anticipated, simply because that, not unlike the hybrid vehicles, when we first went over to them, there's a high voltage system in there. That there's some of the upfitters that are reluctant to, at first they were reluctant to upfit the vehicles when in actuality it all is a 12-volt system that we're dealing with when it comes to radios and radar and computers and things like that. So some of these upfitters, when it comes to the electric vehicles, we're running into kind of the same thing. They're going to get there. It's going to take a little while to do it. We have one vehicle that is being upfitted as we speak. We'll have another one upfitted shortly after it comes back. So my time frame, I'm hoping, is about 2 to 3 weeks on that. We're also making progress on the electric vehicle charging points in back of the town hall. I know I have late fall for a deadline. I think that was depending on maybe some regrading that we were going to looking at redoing in the back.
we can get most of those points up and running before then, and I think that we are in the next 2 weeks, you will see some of those points being installed in the back. Our evidence, as you know, or as you might know, in the last budget, we hired a records specialist and an evidence technician to manage our evidence. She comes from Buncombe County with a vast amount of experience. She's was actually oversaw the entire unit for property section of Buncombe County Sheriff's Office. So she was handling tens of thousands of items of evidence. Here she still had handling several thousand items of evidence, but we're getting online a new evidence system. That evidence system is a RFID system, which is a radio frequency identification system. It'll be easier to track, and it'll free up officers and a lot of space that's down there. Several of those items have been in evidence. Many of those items have been in evidence for a couple decades. Also, I think if you don't have any other questions, I was going to let Assistant Chief Oberlin talk about our internship program that we have with Benjamin Alfaro.
While Assistant Chief Oberlin is coming up, I want to just remind you all and the audience that these EV charging stations are not public. They are not for public use. They are specific to the grant that we received. It was specific to employee use. So they are not public. We did not actually get we requested 2 at the fire station that were public, and we did not get the grant for those. So just as a reminder,
Can the public go down and plug in?
No.
I mean, it's kind of locked up. I mean, I can't take my EV down there at
No.
night and plug her in. There's ways to lock that out with either software or program.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean,
Do we have any
could,
public?
but
Do we have any public as the town? No.
no, we do not. No, Ingalls has a number of them.
Oh, I know Ingalls.
And, yeah, we were not, but we requested, the grant funding for two public, spaces at the fire station. We did not get the grant.
Okay.
Good evening. So we have a unique issue at the police department. We get officers that come and stay forever, but that means that we have an aging crew down there. So we've been paying special attention to bringing in a younger crowd. And we were blessed to get referred Benjamin Alfaro. He is a Weaverville, he lives in the Barnardsville area and has grown up here with his family his whole life and is interested in becoming a police officer. He's 17 years old though. So we needed to find a way to be able to bridge the gap between the time that he's showing interest in working with us and the time that he can go through BLET. I was really happy to get all the support from all of the departments when I reached out to them to try to problem solve how we would be able to use Benjamin in the town of Weaverville. So I've had great support from all the town leaders in helping us work with Benjamin, and I foresee that he will be our best educated employee, well-rounded anyhow, by working with all the departments. In some ways, I'm actually envious, like, geez, I don't know what the fire department does, and he just spent 2 days riding with the fire marshal and learning about that. So we have had great feedback. Benjamin is bilingual, and that has come in handy on so many occasions already. And we're thrilled to have him. So he is starting his senior year on Wednesday at a private school that he attends. And we look forward to having him work with all of the agencies in the department. I want to say thank you to Selena for providing the opportunity for us to try this as a way to explore some hiring options and ways to bring in younger folks into the town and hopefully foster an interest in municipal government. Do you have any questions?
Does he need an intern police department patch?
Yeah, we actually talked a bit about a uniform because we didn't want to confuse anybody. So he has his uniform shirt on that matches the town uniform. It just says intern on there, but he rides with us, or he's been down in the park for events. And like I said, with the fire marshal at the fire department, we're working with Public Works to try things. So
It was complicated, yeah. He wants to be a police officer and we want him to be one, but we don't want to confuse anybody out there.
Understood.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
The Assistant Chief will give you the application, Benjamin. Next up is, well, are there any other questions for the police chief? He's done. He's done. Sorry, too bad. Next up is the fire department and Chief Harris.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Couple things on our call volume. That was in your packet. We responded to 525 calls this last quarter from May 1st through July 30th, with 46 of those being mutual aid calls, 274 being in our North Buncombe district, and 205 being in our within town limits. During those calls, 23% were overlapping, meaning that we were already on a call while being dispatched to an additional call, and having to have crews respond to that. Our call processing or response time for the 90 percentile is just under 5 minutes. So we're averaging just under 5 minutes, 90 percentile on the response time itself. As far as our fire marshal and public education involvement, one of the tasks we do to assist the community is child safety seat installation. During this quarter, we've installed 20 child passenger safety seats or done inspections on those to ensure that they are adequately installed. As far as our interaction on public education, we've interacted with approximately 1,400 adult and children for public education events, to include things downtown as well as school visits, and conducted 75 inspections this quarter from the fire marshal on visits for required occupancy inspections, for maintenance inspections. One of the things we'll be doing in the upcoming quarter, supporting Chief Oberlin and the September Child Cancer Awareness Month, just as we do with the Breast Cancer Month and the Veterans Day, there's 4 hydrants that we'll be painting to recognize that project, so that people in the town can come by and sign those for recognition as well. So we'll be involved in that, and some more interoperability amongst the departments to be able to have that community engagement involved. So glad to take any questions that you may have.
Any questions for the chief? Good work. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sorry for the long meeting, guys. We got lots done. If there's no other business to come before this body, we are adjourned.